And then welcome to Tech Tuesday. My name is Abbie Richie. I'm the founder and CEO of Senior Savvy and the host of Tech Tuesday, where you can find me every week talking about tech innovations. I've also have Tod Petty with me today of Fynn.io. Welcome, Tod.
Hey, Abbie, great to be here again. Exciting show coming up. Very excited to be here.
Awesome. Me too. Let's go ahead and run our intro, and then we'll bring our guest on. All right, welcome back to Tech Tuesday. And if you're just joining us right now, every month we have Tod Petty with Fynn.io joining us on the show to talk about technology. And so, Tod, tell us about what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, we got an exciting topic here. It's about Wi-Fi. I mean, some people assume that kind of boring. Everybody has Wi-Fi in their buildings, but I'm going to tell you, Abbie, in senior housing, some people still don't have Wi-Fi. And all Wi-Fi is not equal. It is not equal. The world is changing and Wi-Fi must adapt to the consumer's needs. So we got a very special guest you're going to introduce that's going to break this down for us so we all can understand.
Oh, goody. Let's go ahead and bring on Matt Haywood from Tazergy. Welcome to Tech Tuesday, Matt.
Well, thank you, Abbie.
Yeah, thank you. And you're welcome. And tell us about what you do with Tazergy, please.
Well, chief cheerleader. But founder, CEO of Tazergy. We are a senior living focused technology firm doing everything from consulting, design to...
I am not hearing him. Are you, Tod?
I think Matt froze for us just momentarily there, Matt. You froze after you said you were the cheerleader.
Oh.
And there you are again. No problem, though, because you know what? It's Tech Tuesday, and tech happens always on Tech Tuesday, doesn't it? It really does. So, yeah, no worries, so, Matt.
We can move on. Founder, CEO of Tazergy, where we do everything. We're senior living focused, from consulting and design.
So we keep getting you a little frozen. It might be good for you to go out and come back in. And with that said, yes, we just switch it up a little bit. You know what? And you know what? Don't worry. It happens all the time. In fact, last month when Tod was on, I think I lost my Wi-Fi connection, right? Something like that happened a bunch of times. So no worries at all. It's not your Wi-Fi. All right. So yeah. Well, actually, in my case, it was my Wi-Fi. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to focus on Tod. Tod, tell us about the Wi-Fi situation pre-2020, please.
Yeah, so a lot of people entering the space with what they believe to be creative Wi-Fi solutions in senior housing. And what that represented was really solutions to bring guest Wi-Fi into the entire campus. So very similar to hotels that did this way back in 2010. So they brought a solution in, and everybody could, join guest Wi-Fi and then have Wi-Fi potentially in the building. The problem is there's all different things that can affect that. There's a block building that can interfere with signal. There are, if too many people are joining the Wi-Fi, it might not have capacity with all those users. And then what is the bandwidth? What is the what's coming down from the internet, the download and upload speeds? And I've been in places that said they had campus-wide Wi-Fi, and you could barely log on. There was really no download. So these things have to be addressed, and there's a variety of solutions for a new generation of senior coming that's going to bring all these devices into their community. So that's what Matt's going to talk about, the importance of that Wi-Fi, the correct Wi-Fi being in the buildings.
Yeah, it is so important. And I know firsthand from working with residents that some of their apartments receive a Wi-Fi signal. Some of them do not. They can't go outside and read a book on their patio, an ebook, for instance. Like, there are just so many problems. And then there's whole buildings that have not been wired properly, which I entirely experienced during 2020. So Matt, bring us a little bit up to speed. What's the current Wi-Fi status right now in senior living?
Well, I'd say the post 2020 Wi-Fi went from being a like to have to a need to have, like you guys have both shared. The pandemic definitely affirmed the need for technology, for connectivity, and so no longer are we having conversations with operators about whether they need Wi-Fi. It's usually about how to solve their Wi-Fi problems.
Yes, absolutely. So the situation, it went from a need to a have to. I totally get that. You know, I even remember experiencing during the pandemic that there was one whole care center that had no Wi-Fi whatsoever, and they couldn't even watch a YouTube video if they wanted to of a church service. So I just know that there's a disconnect. And a lot of times when it comes to technology, there's a lean in moment, a moment in which people really need to see that this is not going away. Like the internet did not go away back in the year 2000 or before that, and that Wi-Fi is an absolute necessity. So what I want to talk about first is let's talk about the worst case scenario in senior living when it comes to Wi-Fi. What's the worst case scenario, Tod?
Yeah, well, with everything changing, one of the greatest things that happened during the pandemic is the Center of Medicare Services said, "Hey, if you can jump on a cell phone with FaceTime, then the doctor can look at your mom and actually have a telehealth visit." And prior to that, you had to have certain platforms; they had to be firewalled. There was data protection, and CMS said, "Just forget about that. We want you the ability to do that." So then, post-pandemic, Center of Medicare Services like, "Hey, we're not gonna put anything back in place. We want telehealth because the whole world is changing, and if the doctor can see mom or dad, they can have a better idea if they're declining or not." So isn't that great? So all they have to have is cellular connectivity or Wi-Fi in a building. But the problem is, in some of the buildings, there is no Wi-Fi, or the Wi-Fi that's there is not adequately equipped, so they can't do a telehealth visit. And
Gotcha.
Or there's no cellular either, right? Like cellular connectivity inside of senior living communities is not a foregone conclusion. It is not something that is always going to be there, for sure.
Amazing, amazing. So yes, I know that not only do the doctors want telehealth visits, but the residents do as well. For them, it's one place where they could stay at home. They don't have to wait in the waiting room. They don't need to be transported, and they like these appointments. And from your point of view, Matt, what's the worst case scenario that you've encountered?
Worst case scenario from a telehealth visit or a resident wanting to be able to host one.
In regards to lack of Wi-Fi.
Yeah, in regards to lack of Wi-Fi, we've seen where operators are relying upon their care team's personal devices to communicate or to provide that interaction. And I don't know that I would call it a worst case scenario, but I certainly wouldn't say that that's ideal. I wouldn't say that that is a business or a community providing the tools that are needed for their care team to provide the resident experience that a resident family should expect. So
100%. Now let's switch and let's talk to the best case scenario. Let's talk about the dream community, the community that's put the infrastructure in place, the community that understands that residents are now moving in with anywhere from 6 to 12 devices of their own, all expecting to be connected to the internet. And the community that is and is ready to upgrade. What's the best case scenario right now?
So, I mean, we're talking about connectivity, right? We're focused in on Wi-Fi, but if we look at overall, there's a lot of key buzzwords these days, AI and IoT, in the connectivity of things. So I'd say the best case is a community, an operations team that understands what they want to deliver to the resident families in the community, and gets busy with the strategy to execute on that. And that would be a logically an engineered wireless network that is capable of supporting the other wireless connectivity of things, whether it is BLE and other IoT technologies that can get layered on top of these wireless environments. So that to me is the ideal best case scenario.
Now, for those of us that are just lay people, what does BLE stand for?
Bluetooth Low Energy.
Okay,
So
got
there's
it. Thank you.
Bluetooth and Bluetooth Low Energy. The low energy variant allows a battery device to have a longer lifespan than, say, your Bluetooth headset, which might have a lifespan of 8 to 10 hours. BLE can extend that to something more like a year.
Wow, that's significant.
Yeah, and Abbie,
Yes.
if you don't mind, I'd like to jump in here because the owner operator has to emerge and has to transition from the old real estate model to more of a healthcare model in the future. And as residents are aging in place longer, in order for them to successfully age, we have to have data surrounding that resident, like their blood pressure and their saturation level and their whereabouts. And we call that real-time location services. All these data points help us prevent an episodic healthcare event to keep the resident longer. And so they'll thrive and they can age in place like we want them to. That means longer length of stay and more dollars for the owner and a happier resident. But for all that to happen, there must be proper infrastructure in the building. And the owner operators must have that infrastructure in place so all these devices work. Otherwise, people will bring devices in and they'll find that they will not work.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It is really important to understand, like you've got a community. You've got a community of people that are going to be coming and going, caregivers, resident families, residents, and they're all going to be carrying devices. We don't get to, as people that are serving the industry and people who are there providing care, we don't get to control what devices come into our communities or even talking with our network. So it really is important that a community and an operator has the right tools in place in order to be able to allow their teams to execute. So just can't stress that enough.
I want to backpedal this just a little bit and talk about the infrastructure that's required, it's necessary in order to properly outfit a community. Could one of you please speak to that?
Yeah, I think it's tin can and a string. Oh, that was pre-2020. Sorry.
Pre-2020, that's right.
Pre-2020.
Tin can
Yes,
string.
we are post-2020. So enterprise grade wireless network. So this is something that is centrally managed. The access points are able to speak to one another. So you're able to deliver 1, 2, 3 wireless SSIDs, which is basically the name that you see broadcast and that you connect to. So it is intentional ecosystem that a remote company or local is able to manage and help deliver a consistent, reliable experience, if you will, not accidental, but intentional.
Yeah. Abbie, I just was going to share too, there's a difference between powerful Wi-Fi and an assisted living where probably the residents are not using it as much versus a new independent living or active adult where residents are coming in with all these devices. And in those scenarios, there has to be a managed Wi-Fi solution so that I can join the community and it can be Tod Petty at avivasenior.com, and that's my Wi-Fi. I can bring whatever device I want into the room. It's mine, it's firewalled, and I can take any devices I want out of the room. I can add a prescription delivery system to give me my medication at 8, 12, and 5. I can put in Amazon to talk to me. I can put in Wemo lights, but it's my Wi-Fi. So that's going to be important in the years to come. And Matt, I didn't know if you wanted to share about it, the difference between managed Wi-Fi and what pretty much everybody has is just basic Wi-Fi right now.
Yeah, managed Wi-Fi. No, Todd, that's a great point. Managed Wi-Fi is, and I use the word intentional, right? What Todd painted the picture of is that as a resident, you're moving in and you have your own private, secure network, if you will, that you can connect your devices and you can roam throughout the community. And still, if you wanted to print something to your printer in your room, you could do that on a campus-wide managed Wi-Fi solution that was properly built, right? That's what we're talking about.
Best case scenario.
But it's also, that would be a best case scenario. But that's also means that your community team, the people that are tasked with providing care that are supporting those residents, whether it's from a housekeeping, wellness, maintenance standpoint. Those people can also connect to the business network and can work wherever they need to, and also print as well. But you also have vendors. You can talk about vendors like K4 and I would say any other vendor that is going to be deploying a wireless device, whether it is a Bluetooth, a BLE, or a Wi-Fi connected device. Those vendors are going to expect and require a managed enterprise-grade wireless network, not something that is decentralized, not something that is accidental, because they need one contiguous network for their devices to talk, so that, say, Amazon can control the right IoT devices inside of their resident unit.
Yeah, it sounds rather complicated. You know, with the communities that I've worked with, there are people who will say, well, should I get my own private Wi-Fi network in my home? And, you know, it really depends on the level of sophistication and online usage that I would make a recommendation for that. If you're planning on using, because all the communities are offering Wi-Fi mostly to the residents on the resident network, right?
Yes, and Abbie, let me
Yeah.
clarify that, right? Like,
Okay.
so a community, and this is maybe pulling back the curtains or a bit, is if they offer public Wi-Fi, let's define public Wi-Fi as what you would expect at a Starbucks or a Panera or a coffee shop or wherever, right? Or an airport. You're going to connect to a wireless network, and it might have a password on it, right? But you're
Right.
connecting and you're able to get to the internet, right? But when you're in those spaces, you don't have a smart TV or a wireless printer nearby or an IoT light bulb that you want to control, right? That is, those things you're specifically not expecting when you're in a public wireless environment. So senior living, by default, you can expect does have a public Wi-Fi where you can join and you can get online and you can get out. Now, that public Wi-Fi should be built properly such that, Abbie, your phone can't see Todd's phone, right? So in other words, there's what's called isolation, right? So you can't see one another and you can't see, Todd can't see your printer and you can't see Todd's printer. Does that make sense? But
it makes sense. And it reminds me of working with a client at one community where sometimes her neighbor prints to her printer.
So that would be a wireless public network that was not built properly. And the only way to solve that problem is from a managed Wi-Fi. You give unique private networks to each resident, such that, Abbie, you can connect your wireless printer, Todd can connect his wireless printer, and both of you can print to your printer and not have to worry about you getting somebody else's print job. Does that make sense? It
does. It makes sense. In a neighboring community, they're always saying, well, why am I seeing all these other Wi-Fis when I go to log on? Why do I have to see my neighbors? And even people who are deceased still have their Wi-Fi network, their private Wi-Fi network popping up on the list of Wi-Fi.
Yes. There's a bit to unpack there, Abbie. So let's just start with the first thing, which I think you said you're seeing all these wireless networks, right? Well, are you all familiar with your smartphones? You might turn on your hotspot, right? And what happens when you turn on your mobile hotspot? You name it, right? And then you connect with your laptop or your iPad or your Chromebook or whatever have you. But you know the name and you know it's local. Well, you just created a wireless network that is broadcast. Guess what? Other people can see it too. So in a senior living community, multi-dwelling, where you have lots of opportunity for people to stand up their own wireless networks, I think this is from your previous comment. When people ask you, should I get my own private network? I would say in senior living, the answer is it depends. It depends if the community that you're living in offers a private network for you to connect to, then I would say no. Take advantage of that. That allows you to connect your TV, your smart devices local, and you can be assured that they're yours and that you can print and work as you need to. That's pretty straightforward. If they don't, and the only thing you need to do is to get online and do banking and do the things that you need, then taking advantage of the public network that the community is offering,
should be fine. However, if you're on that public network and you do a search for printers and you see a bunch of printers, I would say that the resident, you should raise your hand. You should probably report that and say, hey, I don't think the public network is built properly. You might want to shut that down. Does that make sense? Or is that helpful?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted to ask you also, when you do have an excellent Wi-Fi network and you've set it up properly, how could this be used to increase occupancy at your senior living community?
That is a good question.
Todd, do you
I
want
would
to take
say-
that one?
Well,
Yeah,
I
I
can
think
start
Todd, you
that,
can
yes,
start off.
because it's, you know, we've seen as early as 2010 people in our industry sharing that we're not being going to put Wi-Fi in because there's no value to it. The seniors won't use it and it's expensive. And then
How expensive is it? I'm just curious. If you're going to wire a 300 resident or 300 room community, how expensive is that?
If you're talking about retrofit or ground up new construction, those are two different examples. But if you're talking about a retrofit, that also depends upon the construction materials. So you can average anywhere from $500 to $1,000 per access point for a cable drop, a labor to get the wire in as a budgetary number, right? Then you need to buy the electronics and plug that in. It's not a cheap undertaking or endeavor by any means, but it also is something that you should do intentionally, right? Like if you're going to invest money, you should invest the right dollars to get the right system out there, not the cheapest.
And not retroactively either.
It's always best to put out what you need from the jump.
Yes, yes. Okay, let's go back to the occupancy. Todd, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
yeah, so then around 2015, when people realized Wi-Fi was here, it was here to stay. They all the herd then jumped on the bandwagon and said, oh, we have to put this in all of our buildings. So everybody put Wi-Fi in, and then there was such acceptance. There was like this race to bring all kind of devices in. The more devices we could put in, the better. So there was all kind of devices being put in, and the Wi-Fi couldn't handle it. And so what I think we're moving to is what Matt just said. It's what's emerging is managed Wi-Fi, where you can put this great Wi-Fi system in that's capable of handling multiple users, and then you can put technology in or take it out anytime you want to. But that's going to probably be as expensive as putting cheap Wi-Fi in with a bunch of devices. But if you put managed Wi-Fi in with great capabilities, as the owner operator, you have a unique value proposition because very few people can claim that, and your customers can age as technology ages and bring whatever they want to enhance their lives. That's a unique value proposition, and if the customer understands it, I believe you'll get more move-ins.
Yeah, and Todd, to build off of that, I would say it's a foundational element to senior living, right? I wouldn't say that it is the tip of the arrow to driving occupancy, but I would say it's a fundamental component of achieving better occupancy to driving NOI. Is you need to have the right tools in place. And I'd say once you have your foundational connectivity layer right, as you plug the other things on top of that, that allows an operator to increase their operational efficiency, which in turn helps drive occupancy. And ultimately, to me, that's what technology should be doing, is it should help drive operational efficiency and resident experience.
Great. And because Tech Tuesday really targets a senior living executive, especially those who are running communities, if you are talking to that executive director right now about the importance of it, about installing this, about really putting in the correct infrastructure, what would you say to that senior living executive right now? Todd?
Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, well, I would encourage that director to think back to the year 2000 when Wi-Fi or the internet was being introduced, and there was like 50% of the people said, no, we keep it out. We don't like it. And it's going to replace jobs and we don't want it. And then 10 years later, we're in the cloud, and now we all depend on Wi-Fi. We bank with it. We're all very comfortable with it. We have to be prepared for the future of AI, for machine learning, because that's the new wave. And machine learning, AI is going to require robust Wi-Fi, robust connectivity, so that we can let machines help us do things we don't want to do and get a better outcome and a better quality of life. You have to be forward thinking. I would encourage them, and then I'll pass it to Matt, not to be stuck in ancient cultures and be left behind of something that's going to radically transform the world we live in.
Yes.
Have to break out of the pyramid of an ancient culture. I would absolutely agree. What I would say to an executive director or somebody at executive level, it really does come down to strategy and making sure that the technology that you're putting in helps you achieve your vision and the strategy for your community and for your company. It should not be something that is done in a silo and separate. It should be very complementary.
Yeah, it's similar to what happened to Southwest earlier this year when they just had not put the infrastructure in place. And because of that, all of these flights were delayed and they were messed up for days and days because it was that one thing that they decided, let's wait till next year to do. Right. So, and so I think that really building up the infrastructure, putting in the correct technology and doing that, it's planning. It involves planning and budget, right? Are there certain times of the year in which it would be better to do this? Are there certain companies that can really aid in this effort?
Well, I think the simple answer is yes, but we find that it's best to partner with our clients. Is that we're engineering a solution to solve a problem, to achieve a vision, to achieve a strategy. So in order to do that, we're really not selling a widget, right? We're helping solve a problem. So I would encourage those people, hey, you want to partner with the various vendors that are going to help you solve that problem. And it's not just one, right? So your wireless ecosystem in connectivity is one component, your software component, your care systems that run on top of that, that's another. And they play together, right? You can't just have the vendors siloed and not talking to one another. And so really, as an operator, I would say, view yourself as, as a member of a team and make sure that you've assembled a team that does work together to help solve the problem and help maybe lift that burden of feeling like they need to be the savvy shopper, right? That you're out there and picking the right Wi-Fi, like pick the right partner, and then the partner will help you find the right technology and the right system solution for you.
Got it. Good, wise advice. Thank you. Tod, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
I would just say I'm reminded of the company that owned the cell phone market in 2010 called BlackBerry, and they doubled down on the trackball. They had the best trackball ever invented. They had a keyboard that their clients loved. In a matter of 24 months, Apple introduces new technology, new innovation, and BlackBerry is no longer with us today.
At least not in the form that it was. Yes, it was a pioneer. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we risk if we do not change appropriately and wisely as technology emerges. And we have to always be thinking and looking how we can do that.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Matt, if people want to get in touch with you and to find out more about the services that you offer, what would be the best way for them to do that?
There are multiple channels. Our website is tazergy.com. That's like Tazergy, T-A-Z, and then E-R-G-Y. So we took Tasmanian Devil and Synergy, smushed it together. So you can find us there. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and then my email address. You can email me directly, which I think will be available in the info about this webinar.
Wonderful. And Tod, how about you? What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, I'd love people to connect with me. I'm at, they can go to my website, Fynn.io, and we have a comprehensive website there. And certainly they can go to Tod Petty on LinkedIn, where I have fully disclosed information to get hold of me almost any way you want to. But love to have a conversation with folks looking for a new solution.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. And for those folks that piped in the chat, I always appreciate your contribution as well. You guys are awesome. And we will see you right back here next week.